I looked to my left and I saw a black hole and a huge white being next to it. And I got sucked into the black hole. It wasn't really a choice. I saw what people would call entities of all kinds, miles upon miles upon miles, as far as I could see it. And they all wanted to touch me. And every touch was excruciating. And I eventually pleaded and said, please save me, from the very deepest part of my gut. And a light came in and a hand came down and scooped me up. And I said, wait, don't leave them.
These videos answer a lot of questions about why we're here, but I'm guessing you still have a few of your own. So join me for Wake Up Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern, where I'll answer your questions live. And I might even have a few surprise guests show up. Together, we're waking up the collective. Thank you for watching. My guest today is Cara Currey, who had 4 near-death experiences, and she works with geometry. I am so excited, Cara, to talk to you today. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I hope that it's entertaining. I think I can bring some entertainment for sure.
Well, if our pre-conversation is any precursor to what's to come, I guarantee that you will be. And I want to start, I know that everybody wants to hear about the NDEs, but you came in a very special way. And you had a lot of things happen in childhood that were very evidential, that proved to others around you that you weren't making things up. So I want to start there and just tell us about this extraordinary childhood that you had where you were fully awake coming into this lifetime.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. I was definitely born awake. So awake I wasn't exactly sure exactly where it was. So when I was born, I still have full access to my life prior to that, and the experience of being born. I remember seeing the lights um, for the first time. I remember it being painful. My body has a weird way of remembering things. I remember the clothes everybody was wearing, the room, specifics, very, very specific details. It's just kind of how I'm wired. Um, and as I grew a little bit older, I realized that I was very permeable, I guess you could say. I felt everything my attention went to. I didn't just feel it like a handshake agreement. I felt it as though it was me. So a sense of separation really was difficult. Um, and I did have multiple near-death experiences, but the gist of the whole lifetime up to this point is that I basically am very autistic, and I don't have senses that are too standard, and it's taken me quite some time to adjust to those. So I don't just see things in my life with my own eyes that maybe everybody else sees. I actually see not with a third eye, but with my eyes, the fluorescence in the environment. So, like, I may see your beautiful face, but I also see your energy body structure, which is far different than most people draw it out to be. I actually have a drawing of one in the back here. It's kind of wild. Um, and everybody's is really different. Like, I can tell I can tell who's an alien in body and who's a person. It's pretty wild by their energy structure. We all work through these patterns. I can see the patterns. Anyway, I've always been, I guess you could say, highly sensitive, but I don't think that would actually meet the word. It's just a different way of sensory input. And then there's definitely some hardware inside of me that can pretty much mirror and embody anything, even the EMF field itself, even people's patterns, wild things, pretty much everything. Water in itself. I remember being water in itself. My memory doesn't have limits. And I can travel in and out of my experiences. What people would call a lifetime, I pretty much see as a projection. Um, like I'm just living in a holographic universe, and where I move my attention is where I'm experiencing. And this body, where this attention is anchored by an energy body like that. And it's here to do a lot of work. So I use it for such. But I don't really identify too much as the personality Cara. I know myself by a lot of names. Laura, Bob, Sophia, Enoch, uh, Akrishanta, Istiful. I could go on forever. Um, so, yes, I have had near-death experiences. Um, four, but all of which I like to refer to them as arcs. I know that near-death experience is well known as its title, but I don't believe you have to have a death, in fact, to experience yourself in a different dimensional space. And I see how the arcs work, meaning I'm vibrating here at 320 hertz, for example, and I would really like to bring something to myself in this lifetime that I can bring forward to really work through my pattern. I need it. I need I need Laura, my past life, who was vibrating at 570 hertz, to vibrate here with me at this hertz. So how am I going to do that? But I need to create some kind of an arc. I need my body to be in a place where it can hold the information that's there for me in that space. And so I plan it. And I plan something that's going to bring this physical being to a place where I can vibrate what I need to bring to me in this space. So I call them arcs because I don't believe that the death part is necessary for people to do this. I actually think we do this every day in different ways. We just have some people that really need to travel quite a distance to get what they need to get.
So, will you share some of those early childhood experiences where you were getting information and your parents were testing you?
Yeah. Well, so at 2 was my first near death, and that really brought me to water. It was a drowning experience, and I was underwater. They don't know how long enough for my brother to, I lived on a lake, and my brother ran into the house and said, Cara's underwater, and for them to run back out. And the house wasn't like super close to the water. It had to have been more than 5 to 7 minutes. So there should have been a major trauma, but there wasn't. My father came out and said I was looking up at him smiling underwater, and I was 2. And he pulled me out of the water, and I don't remember any trauma with it whatsoever. I remember all of the beings that I met underwater, and I remember being water. And just as I spoke to you prior to this about the oneness and um, um, basically how that feels outside of your body, I was remembering what it was to be expressed as the expression in that that state of water, which is a vibratory state. Um, and so after that, I was extremely permeable. And so much so that um, my parents would play lots of games with me because I could tell them things like who would call on the phone. And this was, I'm nearly 50, so this is, you know, the old school phone. It wasn't like it's a digital. It was, I, mom, go to the phone, somebody's going to call, and they would call. It was constant. We would ride in the car and they would play games about what car was going to pass by, what color was going to pass by. I could do that. They would say what song's going to come on the radio next. And this is, you know, this is when we had AM, FM, and you used both AM and FM. It was, and I could tell them what song was going to come on, even if I didn't know the song. I could even do it like how many would be in a row. Um, Sometimes they would play a song and I wouldn't know it, but I could sing it word for word. It was just access to everything. And I knew nothing other. Uh,
Was it that way for you in school as well then? Were you able to get straight A's in school because you just had access to the information?
I wish, no. No, school was excruciating. Um,
Why? Tell me why.
because, well, multiple reasons. I couldn't read. I couldn't follow any linear process whatsoever. So if I were to read a word, it would be backwards. If I were to try to read a line, it was backwards. I actually would start at the back of the book. I still do that. Um, the processing isn't linear in me, never has been. So it was like trying to learn how to ride the bike, but backwards, or I don't really have a good example. Um, the focus it required to pay attention to something was kind of like if you're going to stand in a river that's flowing and you feel that pressure on you. And the pressure was far too much. It was very difficult. So my parents took me to a doctor. Um, and at that point in time, there was autism had just been like kind of titled. And they said, yes, she's got a learning disability for sure. She's very dyslexic, but she has this thing called autism. And we don't know anything about it. So good luck. And that's kind of how that went. Um, I didn't have any friends. I grew up very different. So the parents were terrified of me. So they wouldn't let their kids come over. They definitely wouldn't let them stay the night. Because, you know, I had access to things and I didn't know that anybody else didn't. I thought my world was fine. Um,
What do you think you had access to that a parent would have been afraid of? What information was it something about them
no,
personally?
no, not necessarily. Just you have to think like a child's mind. Like, hey, mom, how come the dwarfs in Snow White are white? Because they're not, they're blue. Questions your mind would just, you know, go to, because all beings in my space were alive. Um, all vibrations were there, even different aspects of the human themselves. So their other experiences were visible to me.
So you, when you're looking at somebody, you can see a vibration of what they've been in a past life, in a different lifetime, or is it all human lifetimes or any lifetime?
It's whatever my body recognizes as me. So if you think about consciousness seeing itself, so if my body was saying, hey, I see myself in you, that's what I would see.
Can you
And
give me an example so that because I know these are super advanced. You know, I've been part of the collective and I understand what you're talking about, but I think that it's really hard to explain to people what you mean by, when we say, oh, you're me and I'm you. I
Yeah,
think people think that's kind of like a nicey nice thing to say,
no,
not meaning it literally that we are each other. So can you elaborate? Because this will help a lot of people.
yeah, absolutely. No, it's actually physics. Um, and it's blockchain. So if you think about the structure of things, it's no different than and how all atoms actually work, right? So there's a magnetism at the center of all things, yeah? And that magnetism is typically, we could say, born first or expressed first through the divine. And then it expresses again. I mean, what am I? Right? The original thought was expressed. Whether you believe this or not, this is just my experience. And I always say it's my personal experience. And I descended a different direction into matter than maybe you did. So it might not be right for you, but you can just hear my story. But from my experience, I remember being through source. I don't really have any filters left, and I don't really seem to not be able to access everything. So my memory goes like this: I'm everything. I don't know anything separate from myself. I'm just motion, light, energy. So what am I? If I'm all of this, who's who am I hearing? What's happening? Who am I? And that expression moves. I call that the original thought. The one divides into two. Yeah, still physics, still physics. And then that expression says, oh my God, I can see myself, right? So I must be something. This is as I remember it. And that, again, is a triad. Now, one sees itself as two, and now there's three. We're just talking about geometry at this point, but we're also talking about a lot of other aspects, right? A lot of different ways to tell the same story. Anyway, by the time you get down to what you are at this space, which is 7 octaves, you are in a body with a really kick-ass structure, and that structure has a pattern in it from you experiencing yourself through those different vibratory states into matter. Now, when you get to that spot and you still know yourself as that first, what am I? That entire cosmic being of you collapses and becomes still just one, depending on where your attention is. This is the autistic brain. There isn't a difference between those spaces. So when I say, when I see you, my body recognizes something in it. And that is a piece of me, yet I am Cara, vibrating something that recognizes something in you. It's really the same vibration because the atom is just vibrating with all of its pieces and particles to become matter. There's just, it's the same thing. It's just really put into a body biology. We feel like we're still because that's how the structure is built, so that we can slow down enough to touch something. See, I remember myself being expressed with a question. That question was, what is touch? What really is touch? If you think about this just from ourselves as a body, you kind of quickly answer it, right? Well, I know what it's like to touch my child, or I know what it's like to touch my skin. But when you start to realize that touch is many things, like if I were to say something to you that was really mean, you'd feel it, wouldn't you? Like, think about it. It's a world that we live in now on social media where things are said where people are hurt so badly they may take their own life from it. It is painful. It is touch. So, what really is touch? I don't actually have the answer. That's part of why I incarnated. I'm supposed to bring that answer back, and I don't have the answer. I'd love people to think about it. What really is touch? I mean, you feel it deeply, but you can feel it without your skin touching it, right? And we're going into a world of artificial intelligence. This is an important question. What is it? Is it really biology? Is it really important? I think it might be really, really important, but I need to come up with that answer. So, um, when I say consciousness seeing itself, each of us is working through our structure. I'll just call it our energy body. And as we come into form, those structures mimic the platonic solids. Okay, so water in its essence. And all we're really doing, from my perspective, from what I've experienced, and again, that might not be right for somebody else, um, is trying to find our center of our geometry, of our expressions, so that we can see from the middle out. Otherwise, what we're doing is, like, for example, if I didn't have all my memories, I would be like looking from my perspective up at the higher vibrations. Like, I want to get there. I want to see from up there. Really hard to see that higher vibration, isn't it? Especially because this is a lower spot. So I can't like jump to reach up there. I can't see it. The perspective is higher than me. But if I'm in the middle, I can see in a circle. So I can see all of my perspectives. So when I'm there, I feel the totality of all of me, which is also the totality of everything, which is also humans. So I don't know if I explained that very well, but
Well, it's such a difficult concept, and I think you did a great job with the analogies. I want to ask you a few questions that have come up as you've been talking about this. So it was super interesting. I've really never heard somebody talk about the hertz at which they're vibrating. And you said that this incarnation of you is vibrating at 320 hertz, but you had another incarnation that vibrated much higher. What do the people watching need to understand about hertz vibrations, and why is that important?
yeah. Well, the hertz that I was just giving was examples, but if you use your chat GPT, you can Google what colors are what hertz. Okay. So when I talk about 7 octaves, I'm talking about a spiral of life expressed at a very, very fast, high vibratory state. That vibratory state starts to entangle with its environment. Yeah. And when it entangles, it decreases its speed. This is physics. And as it decreases its speed, it starts to create from a new field of awareness where others are vibrating at that same pace. And if you look at the 7 octaves, they also are relatable to many, many things, but we're going to use colors because the fields start to vibrate until they slow and they create what would be like a pattern, a field of information there. Those are also realms. Those are places where you can experience yourself through that color. That color is consistently vibrating with others to create space for a perceiver to experience themselves through that particular hertz, that particular vibratory state. And once the person has incarnated in that space enough, for example, we could use something very popular. Let's say angels. Angels vibrate at a very specific hertz. Now they can descend from their original spark and learn at all these different octaves, but their particular hertz is one where they tend to help the humanity. So they're just slightly above humanity, kind of in that seventh density, I guess you could say, vibratory state. They kind of toggle between the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So when I talk about hertz, chickens have a certain hertz, dogs hear certain hertz. Everything's vibrating at a different state. Well, when those vibrations match, they can create what would be considered a field.
So, for the people who are watching, how do they determine the field that they're in and the hertz that they're vibrating at? Is it by what their thoughts are focused on? Is it by what they let into their world? How does that work?
Well, your body vibrates as a tone. Okay, so especially everybody's going to be different. Even their light bodies are really different, like really different. Um, so they're going to be vibrating at a specific hertz for the actual aspects of their pattern, what they're actually trying to learn through. So it doesn't, I know a lot of people say you want to raise your vibration, but really what you want to do is to be able to work with the pattern that you came with. And a pattern could be thought of as, think about your cell phone. You have contacts, yeah, in your cell phone. And then you have people that you call on a regular basis. And that could be considered like another layer of your pattern. And then you have one person that you want to call, and that would be considered like a node. I'm going to call this one, my focused attention is on this one. The body doesn't really operate a whole lot different than that cellular system. You incarnate, you say, I need to learn how to be a mother in this lifetime, for example. And at these ages, I'm going to have these kids, and these kids are going to hold these particular hertz or these chords, these tones for me. And that's going to bring me to a different state of tone. And for example, I may have a near-death experience after each one that brings me to a whole nother octave, because this is really the job I need to do. I need to learn how to be a good mother in that particular vibratory state, let's just say. And so you plan before your incarnation how you would like to get from your house to the school bus and back that day. You're planning your GPS. Your GPS is planned ahead of time. And then every day we go through our daily routines, and we finish our pattern over and over again. We make our phone calls. These all create a tone in our body. I'm just trying to give you like examples instead of just being scientific about it. And the body recognizes the pattern it's working through and adjusts accordingly. And that's really where, like, okay, I'm vibrating at this pace, but I'm not going to reach my goal of being a really good mother in this life. I better have something that really shifts my chords. And that could be, like, for my example, every child I had what you would consider a near-death experience. I had sepsis for 12 days where I was in the ICU. I did not know if I was alive or dead. I would not have been able to tell you. And that brought me to a whole different energy body when I came out of that experience. So it's really, when people talk about raising their vibration, it's not a benefit to you if you're going to vibrate faster, but you don't have any idea of why. It's about your knowing. What is it that I want to become in this life? What is it that I am here to do? A question born out of necessity of every human being. Not an author telling you raise your vibration so that you can uh, be a happy individual. No, 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 no. Here's the biggest thing that I learned in my life. My shadows, which I had a lot of shadows, my shadows, my pain is actually holding energetically beauty behind it. I just have to move through it. See, our memories aren't held in the higher vibrations. They're actually held in density. They're held in our physical body. So just like your car says, hey, go get an oil change and your engine light's on. And so you pay attention to it because it's got a light blinking at you saying, hey, go take care of that. Um, our bodies communicate the same way. Same way. Put your attention on this. This is holding a memory for you. It's something very important for you to bring forth in this lifetime. That's how the soul communicates. It moves you as your personality by directing it. And I have learned to welcome my pain. How's that? I've dealt with it enough in my lifetime to say, what is it that you're trying to show me? And allowing it to move. The minute I push away from it, it amplifies. And I
Wow.
can really say that because I dealt with migraines and debilitating seizures for 3 years where I was bedridden. I really did deal with pain and get it down. I got the hang of it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, I think that these conversations help people to have a different perspective about why they might be experiencing something that doesn't make sense, that they don't
Yeah.
like, that they feel like is a limitation in their lives instead of seeing that the beauty is just on the other side of it. But I do want to go back to that near-death experience because I thought it was also fascinating that you became water. And you said you could feel what it felt like to be water. And I've talked about water a few times in these interviews, and I think that water, I believed that water was a sentient being, and I would love for somebody who experienced being water. What is water?
Mm.
Made of what, 85% of it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the first expression is a gas state. It's energetic um, hmm, motion, right? And then there's energy because it's bouncing and entangling with each other and bouncing back and forth. And then there's light that comes next. And then there's water because water, in fact, is the host of all of it. So as it starts to form itself, water is expressed. It's just got more than H2O. It's got a third phase, which we proved in Jerry Pollock's lab, by the way, that you can actually influence water by being it with your own consciousness. We were able to create honeycomb layers upon honeycomb layers. Not only that, but we were actually able to show that you can visibly see photons in water just on a screen with your own eyes by looking at a tiny little petri dish on a magnifying machine. I forget the machine they call it, but water has a specific frequency. It does. We've all probably met it at some point in our life, that point of no return, full surrender, life and death. It is a free for all. So I approach water like a wild animal in the lab when we go there. We've been there quite a bit. You you approach it as, at least I do, hey, here's my field. This is how I am here in this space, wide open. And would you like to dance? Water does not want your attention. It wants to play. It responds to joy. It responds to coherence. So as soon as your geometric hexagon pattern, if you know yourself to the point where your field is in fact completely coherent, the water recognizes itself. It's very simple. So I will often, on a regular basis, go to a river or a lake, and all I do is remember what it is to be in that space of um, surrender is the best word for it. No determination whatsoever. And there you're met.
What about drinking water? Do you do something special before you drink water?
I actually do meditations every Sunday, and they're water meditations where I ask the people to take a drink of water before we start, and then I connect to the water that they drink. I do this with my non-speaking friends. We all get together, and um, it's just water is no different than the space that you're breathing. To me, it's all the same. It's just different faces of it. So, what really is the water that you're drinking? If you ask yourself, like, what really makes you thirsty? Not what the scientists tell you, and not what the doctor says, but what really makes you thirsty. It's a cool question. When you start to analyze your world through a different lens, you start to see its essence. That's what comes up is essence, what it was originally born of, what was the thought.
Wow. Well, when you were talking about that, you mentioned your non-speaking friends. And it's interesting because when you said my autistic brain, the first thing I thought about were the telepathy tapes, which I'm sure you're familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
and how the nonverbal autistic kids have been proving that they're communicating telepathically. They're going to the place called the Hill and
Mm-hmm.
having these interactions with each other outside of language, outside of time. And I wondered if you had experienced anything like that with telepathy.
Yes. So telepathy to me is a vibratory field of conscious communication where we all think. It's where our thoughts are. So to me, if you're going to speak to me telepathically, I'm going to intend a thought and then I'm going to intend to send that thought to you. Now, what I do with the nonverbal is different. I am matching their body's vibratory state, and in that, we share consciousness. Different. True. There isn't any entanglement in that process. One vibration matches another vibration, those vibrations communicate. So, we do this on a nightly basis. We don't really sleep in the same fashion as somebody else. We go into a dream state and in there we work. And that's where people talk about meeting on the hill. There's many meeting places. We we all work as separate groups and big groups. There's different groups. Um, I work specifically with a group of we're about 10 now. Um, I never found any of them. I never reached out to one of them. They come to me in my dream space and they will say things that are um, pretty different. Like, for example, how I met the child I met last week was he said, he came to me in my dream and he showed me his face. And he said, I would really like to help you in the light field, was what he wanted to work on. And I said, great, sounds good. And he says, I need you to find me. And I say, okay, tell me how to find you. And he says, follow the trail of the ramp. I had no idea what that means. But the next day I wake up and I have a text that says, um, hey, Cara, this young girl really had this donation for a ramp, a wheelchair ramp, and that money was actually siphoned. And do you want to help us do a meditation to raise money for the wheelchair ramp? Sure. So I talk to the person, and I get introduced to another lady, and this lady says, I'm really good friends with this other woman, and her son would really like to talk with you. And she sends me a picture of the boy, and he's like 9 years old, and he's the cutest thing I've ever seen. So like it was really easy to remember the face, and I was like, that's him. So it took a day. This happens on a weekly basis. This is last week's story. Um, I had another one, and it's with adults too. I had another one where I'm working on something, and man, he's probably, I don't know, 25 in the dream space, but they're not usually who they show in the dream space. And he sits next to me and says, well, why don't you just tell the whole truth and stop hiding who you are? And I said, I'm not hiding who I am. And he says, well, why don't you start by congratulating Lindsay? I don't know Lindsay. I don't know what he's talking about. So I tell the story of my dream to who I call the soul family, people that all have these nonverbal. And I was like, anybody know a Lindsay? And one woman says, yeah, I know this one. She shows me a picture. I'm like, no, that's not her. I haven't seen a picture of Lindsay. I just know vibrationally. Anyway, the third Lindsay that came up, I said, yes, that's her. And I get to speak to her a couple days later, and her son is autistic. And I said, did you visit me in your dream? And he has been able to speak. His mother worked so hard, he can now speak. And he said, yes, I just wanted to tell you that we all really love you. I was like, are you kidding me? That's so sweet. And he confirmed verbally, yes, that he was in the dream and that was his intention. Happens all the time.
Wow. Incredible. All right. I would like to go on to the next near-death experience. So,
Yeah.
which one happened next?
10, age 10, that was the harmonic convergence. I believe it was August, and that would have been 87, I think, if I'm getting that right. And when I talk about arcs, this was an arc for me to bring back all the information I had in an Enoch life. And this was altercation, I guess, a childhood play that went wrong. And I left my body and hovered over the body, like you hear these stories, and did not recognize that as myself whatsoever. And I looked to my left, and I saw a black hole and a huge white being next to it. And then at my head, there was another hole, I guess you could say, that was blue. And I got sucked into the black hole. It wasn't really a choice. And from there, I fell, and I fell like a free fall until I hit the ground. And when I stood up in that experience, as far as I could see, I saw what people would call entities of all kinds, miles upon miles upon miles, as far as I could see it. And to feel that was a sense of complete abandonment and suffering, like no human could ever imagine. Um, and they all wanted to touch me, and every touch was excruciating. And I eventually pleaded and said, please save me, from the very deepest part of my gut. And a light came in, and a hand came down and scooped me up. And I said, wait, don't leave them, because I felt every single one of them. And I begged for mercy for them. Can we please take them with me? Please, I can't leave them like this. I pleaded. And the answer back was just a voice that said, I will show you why they are there. Come with me. Now, what might be a millisecond on Earth is much longer, as you know, in that space. So I went through every one of these vibratory fields I talk about for a very long time, and I learned them intimately. I learned about how they work. I learned about who resides in those spaces. I learned about the structure of all things. I learned about sound in a different way, light, until I reached the voice that was speaking to me. And I call him Father. This is the same voice that I spoke to as a little girl all of the time. My brother would come to me and say, Can I talk to God, please? And I'd be like, Sure, let's talk. I talk to God all the time. So I got to I got to Father, and I said, How could you have such a discrepancy? I was so angry. I had now seen every dimensional space, and here he is sitting in this glory, beautiful light, oneness of everything, love. So for me, they're all the same. Like, how could you have this discrepancy? I said. And he said, I'm going to teach you everything about the universe and how it's structured. And then you're going to go back. And I said, No, you can't send me back. No. And he said, Oh no, you're gonna go back, and you're going to free every one of those souls that you met. And in that moment, there was 7 family members that stood around me. And I realized at that moment they were all going to incarnate and help me. And this is the people I say are my soul family. They're all nonverbal autistic. But I saw the entire lifetime. I saw it from beginning to end, and I saw future lifetime. I saw all of it in the same spot. And I begged and pleaded to please not be sent back to my body. And it was probably the most painful experience of my entire life, being sent into that body, physically, emotionally, all of it. But when I woke up, I did not know who I was anymore. And I had amnesia for a good, I don't know, 5, 6 years. Um, didn't do well coming back. Stopped eating. There was no point in eating anything. I could just taste a Snickers bar if I wanted to taste a Snickers bar. Why would I eat it? The adjustment process was brutal, to say the least. And the visions that I had were so significant that the space I was residing in was not making any sense. So I could see without any filter of, like I explained earlier, but all the beings and so forth. So um, eventually, I adjusted eventually, and learned that as long as I was in the water, I could filter out all of the information, and I could sort it. And that's how I did it. I would constantly use the water to be in my body, and then understand what is conscious. So what's my own thought and what's not my thought, what's my own being and what's not me. It was really hard, but it was required because I couldn't get through high school. I couldn't study. I couldn't function. I was a troubled kid for sure. But I did it, and eventually held a wonderful career. I was a real estate developer, sales person for 30 years. Did really had a beautiful company. And then I had 2 more near death experiences when I had each child.
Okay, so before we go into the next two, I definitely want to ask a couple of questions. This is so interesting because you went into a deep explanation about what touch is before, and you said that they were touching you and the touch was excruciating. What kind of touch were you describing that was excruciating? Emotional, physical? What was it?
All of it, yes. So it's an expression. So basically, what I understood was this was the collective shadow, but because I had, you're gonna I laugh, but the nonverbal kids say I'm 70,000 years old plus some. If you were to equal it out to human years, so imagine how many shadows I've earned. If that, and it's been more than one that has said that I have incarnated so many times like that. Those were my shadows.
That's
So
why you couldn't leave them behind because
that's
you knew
exactly
that
right.
they were you.
That's right. So when they would touch me, I would feel it. And think about how painful your own stuff is.
Mm.
So it was every kind of pain you could imagine. It was physical, it was emotional, it was more than that. Think about the oneness of the spaces that we talk about. It's it's a shadow. It was all of it at once. It's
So
misery.
when you had the conversation with God, Father, and you said that you were so angry, and he said, I'm going to show you why they're there.
Yeah,
Did you just come to the understanding that it wasn't they that were there?
yeah,
It was just an aspect of you.
that's exactly right. Yes.
And
And I
so
learned, yes,
what did you do to reconcile that?
I became coherent. And the reason that I became coherent was so that I could bring and embody each and every shadow, which is a memory, which is why I have so many memories.
And by embodying each and every shadow and equalizing them or bringing them to equilibrium, what happens? Do they dissolve?
They actually vibrate in your body as their opposite. So, let me see, how do I explain that? In polarity, there is one that splits into two. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's yin and yang to everything. So the shadow in its essence has a lesson in it, doesn't it? Every shadow does. Everything that we learn has pain and love. It has some type of exchange happening. Now, it's held for us to integrate in the shadow part because we're in physical bodies that vibrate slow. It doesn't hold in the higher aspect. So you have to move through the part that you put outside the door because it was too hard for you to deal with. But if you put like your dog outside the door in a rainstorm and you bring it back in, if it's been out there too long, it just might bite. Like it's going to get pissed. It's been outside way too long. It's mad at you at this point, right? So we don't get to not deal with our own stuff. Like I know myself after death, many, many deaths. It's all there. We just keep reincarnating and get to forget so that we can work through it again. I don't have that anymore. That's not a luxury I get anymore. So
Why
I
did you call it a
integrate it.
luxury? Why did you call it a luxury?
Naivety is a luxury
Why?
because it can't be hurt. It doesn't know any different. And once that's gone, you know, I knew I was going to face all my shadows. I didn't know how, but, and it was hard. And it still is hard at times. But if you don't know, you get to flow and you get to be a little bit freer. I'm going to put it that way until you meet the place where you can hold it. And then
Okay.
that's real freedom.
So, because you brought this up and you mentioned it earlier, I'm really curious to know what your definition of karma is, because I feel like karma has been very misused in the spiritual community. I feel that karma is to spirituality what hell is to Christianity. And I don't think it's about a punishment. I think it's cause and effect.
Mm.
So, will you explain in a way that will help people to understand what we mean, what you mean when you use the word karma?
Okay, I'll do my best. Let's see. Okay, I have an example. If I get in a car accident with Bob and it turns out to be my fault, I'm found that we exchange insurance, right? And my insurance company says it's her fault because she was on her cell phone. That's my fault. I affected his car and his his medical, so forth. So I now have to deal with the cause and effect, don't I? And that is actual energy between us. It affected him, it affected me. It's an energy in an exchange. That exists. The cars show it, the insurance companies show it. I show it. I got in the accident. He shows it. He's in the accident. All of that exists. So I think of the karma as the totality of that entanglement. I don't
Do we
know.
have to do something though? Because people will talk about balancing karma. Does that really exist in the sense that people are using it as more of a judgment?
Ask me that again.
So when people talk about karma, you'll hear people in spiritual circles say, we are here to balance karma. So, for example, if in my last lifetime I killed you, I will come back in this lifetime and you will kill me, or we'll have a chance
Mm,
to work it out where it is a judgment of an action that we would judge on a human level as good or bad that I don't think is the same from a human or from a spirit, higher soul perspective. So by balancing out, people believe that that's part of why we come back to mitigate that energy, that karma. Can you speak to that?
yeah, it's entangled at that point with that particular soul. So you want to continue your work with that soul. Now, we've been doing this over and over and over and over again also for so long that the energies have become so entangled that they don't necessarily work the way they were intended to work. So that's where we come in with how do I want to describe this? Just changing the water at the earth. So we're raising the earth's vibratory state, and what happens is a lot of that karma just starts to be reseen in a different way, a higher perspective. It moves all the karma up to a different vibratory state. So at this point, most of that old karma is already reseen and released. People just don't understand it. They just start to feel differently about things that may have upset them before, and that's really all they know or understand.
Okay, that's helpful. So, are we balancing things in a way that we're like paying something back, or does that really not exist the way that we're thinking about it?
It doesn't really, energy just is really hard to understand in the human mind. It doesn't really work that way. No.
Yeah.
You can actually, if you think about, I don't have a rubber band, but if you think about like holding on to a rubber band and how it's got tension there, really all you got to do is release one and the other one's hanging onto that rubber band, right? And it's limp. Well, there's lots of ways to heal this rubber band. So when we start to just let go and allow things to move, they move. They don't stay stagnant. I don't know if that answered it.
No, that's perfect. That's great. Okay, because we're talking about these deeper reasons for coming here and having these incarnations over and over again, do you think, or have you experienced, because you've been here almost 50 years and you've met a lot of people, are the majority of the people who are incarnated right now, we have 8 billion of us on this planet, are the majority of us older souls, mid-level souls, younger souls? Is it just a hodgepodge, or do you think that there's any type of delineation? And I don't mean in a sense of good, better, best, just more experience versus less right now.
Um, it requires a village, that's for sure. So the incarnated souls are the ones that are here to help this particular earth shift her frequency and remember who she is. So that really doesn't matter how old they are. It's about what when they incarnated before. That's what we're looking for. So you're talking about the linear spaces. So a linear space to me is what you would call like Lemuria is a good example. Lemuria had physical aspects to it, but it also had higher aspects to it. So those beings were aware of themselves at a higher octave, and they were able to move as light body, as physical biology. Yeah, because their linear space was intact. The earth was holding that. The earth was aware of herself at that vibratory state, for example. So the beings that are here now are here to anchor in that linear space. So it doesn't matter how old they are, it matters about where they're located and when they incarnated before, because there's a bunch of different nodes that are being attached right now, actually, as we speak, that we're working on to bring the higher vibratory states to the earth so that we can be checked on from all of the loved ones that passed away. They can come visit us and we can actually see them. I have videos upon videos of orbs all around me, consciousness that you guys can see, consciousness in form, becoming light. So um, I think it matters where you're located and where when you incarnated.
So is there a purpose? I've called this a game from my perspective of being on the other side, that this is a game of experience and the objective is to wake up and remember who you are and that you are one. Is that what you understand the objective of the earth experience to be too?
This gets back to touch.
Okay.
For me, I think it's a place where everything slows down long enough for us to experience the question, the original thought of
Which is?
what am I?
Hmm.
What is that? So we go through our days and we pass the tree, right? Every day you walk past the same tree and you don't even identify it anymore. It just registers, goes right through your eyes, doesn't hit the part of your brain to process anymore. It's a tree. You know it is a tree. Well, you're holding that tree in agreement. The tree has no way to be something other. Until that linear space comes and really gets grounded in here, you won't see that tree as anything but it is. But I see that tree as bright pink energy. I see it as something other. So to me, I'm allowing that tree movement. But when three other people see it just as the tree, it's held there in that agreement and it cannot be something other. So I think our incarnation is here to make this world a new place, something that is all aspects of us. And our body is the thing to embody each one of those higher aspects of ourselves. That's what I think.
So why do you think you came here, you personally?
I have multiple missions. My first mission was to anchor in the ache of separation because I remember it. And I did that with my twin energy body, Noah. He was the exact same expression as me, but went a completely different opposite direction. And he had the job of remembering. Could you imagine having to remember everything in each incarnation? I went to the airport with him once and I watched him look around and I said, "Do you know every single person here in all of your incarnations?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Is that horrible?" And he said, "Yes." And my job was
Why
to
would it be
forget.
horrible? Why would it be horrible?
Well, think about it. If you have a child, for example, say you have a daughter or a son, and you remember that daughter or son in 8 different lifetimes, being a wife, being someone that did something awful to you, you have to you have to balance that in this identity. That's why it's awful. And it's just too much. It's too much information. So he went through his remembering, and I went through my forgetting. And in this lifetime, we see each other and bring all of those aspects or tones or chords to one being. So
Does
we talk all the time.
does everybody who is incarnated on Earth have a, I'm going to call it a twin flame because I know that that's what you've called it, which is just, it doesn't mean it's anything special in the sense of, oh, it's this grandiose relationship. It means it in the opposite of the mirror of
Mm-hmm.
what you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it
I
could
don't
be
know
two
that answer.
females, two
Yeah.
males. It doesn't matter because we are
No, it
not
doesn't matter.
that at all.
Yeah.
It's just the mirror energetically of you, the other half of you, right?
It doesn't even have to be the other half. To me, a twin flame is somebody that just has the twin vibration of you. This is constantly happening for me almost every day. I go to the coffee shop and I'll feel somebody's vibration, and that's I have the same one. So that wakes up within me. To me, that's what a twin flame is. Now, Noah is the same expression. So we have the same oversoul. Um, say,
Explain oversoul for people who don't really understand this. And is this the same word that we would use for higher self, or is it different?
different.
Okay.
You have a soul family. So source expresses, yeah, and they express into these fields, and that field is to learn upon itself, and that field will then express again. So that family of um, at that point you're one with things, but at that point that field is called an oversoul. It's a family of beings learning upon something. Okay. And then ours is preserving the original thought. The only way to preserve the original thought is to express out all that came from that original thought of what am I, right? So my job was in part what is touch, because I'm identifying the what am I. And then there is a soul aspect, and that is the light body without the biology experiencing itself in the realms where there isn't a biology embedded into it yet. And the soul doesn't have it's like an elevator. Like it can go up and down and up and down and up and down, and it does a lot of the legwork. It does the planning. It's who you are when you're sleeping. Um, so yeah, so there's three main aspects of every human being.
Wow. This is so incredible. I love this conversation. Like I can't even express how much I love this conversation. All right. I'm going to go on to the last two NDEs that you had in childbirth.
Okay. My let me see. My daughter was healthy as an ox, but I had a C-section and I got a bacterial infection, sepsis, from that surgery, and it was some kind of bacteria that they could not identify. in the hospital, and it led to me being on my deathbed for many, many days, trying to survive with different types of IV antibiotics. And in that space, I was retrieving all of the cords so the beings that I had met for myself in the 10-year-old experience were vibrations, and I had to be at that death vibration in order to bring them all back. Those are cords, okay? So I had to integrate all of those cords, and I have been doing that throughout the years. This wasn't a one and done by any means. But when I came back from that experience, I recovered, and 3 months later, my husband was hit in a head-on collision. He was on a motorcycle, and a truck hit him head-on, and had to deal with that trauma and an 18-month-old. And that was brutal. I lost my company that was I had spent a long time building. Lots of trauma. And then they said we could never have another child, but we did get pregnant again. And he was a different harmonic. My son was something powerful. Just about, I got rear-ended by a semi when I was pregnant with him. And it put me back in the hospital, and he wasn't ready to come out. And so I had to be monitored in the hospital for quite some time, and started having seizures, and ended up eclamptic when I had him, which is in a seizure. And came out of that experience. I couldn't see. Something happened to my sight, and nobody understood what was going on. They just said, just maybe she's too drugged, because I could see things and I couldn't see things. Nothing was making any sense. And I came out of that with debilitating migraine pain. Like, I had not ever experienced a migraine before. And when I say migraine, I mean like I would be throwing up. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink water. I became bedridden, really, because I was constantly spinning. I was in a dizzy state, feeling like I was falling. And the pain was so great that I uh, got into all kinds of different facilities for pain management, and nothing worked. Absolutely nothing worked. And to boot, I was seizing. I was having seizures where I would get kicked out of my body constantly. Like, they took away my driver's license. I was raising two kids from my bed. I just came to a point where I said, Father, why? I'm done. Pain is a teacher. And I hit surrender, and I said, this is my last night. I can't throw up anymore. I can't do this anymore. It's been 3 years I tried to get through it. And I had two little kids, so imagine how I put a lot of thought into this, okay? I had a lot of time to deliberate how much pain I could tolerate. And I hit a place where I couldn't tolerate anymore. It was done. I was in the hospital every week. You're talking about this too much pain. And the next morning I woke up and I felt different. I had a cup of coffee, and I was so grateful to have that cup of coffee. And something came over me that was hot, really hot. And I had 3 days and 3 nights of oneness. I had no separation from anything. I could hear the center of the earth. I could hear the sound of the plants. The plants were all pink and purple and energy. I could hear Father again. I could also hear who I call Mother Earth. I remembered the 10-year-old experience in detail, and it all came through. And I've been doing this ever since, because boy, will I not go back there. I I have learned that I need to bring a huge amount of information forward so that people understand that they are so much more than their bodies, that they do actually have this structure I wrote behind me, that they are, in fact, divinity expressing in a human form. And I I aim to do it. I I let water see itself. I anchored the ache of separation. I started the return by integrating all of my own shadow and being an old soul. And now I am processing what is touch. And I just process what comes when it comes. I answer to Father when he calls, and that's what I'm doing.
Wow. All right. I'm going to go back to a few things. You said that your son came in a different harmonic. How is that different than the vibration of the hertz that we talked about?
It's good. So he's a perfect example of a twin flame. So he had a higher hertz than my body was ready to hold, but he forced my body to hold it because his presence vibrating at a specific hertz is in my field, in my physical field, making my body shift to his higher vibratory state. That's what a twin flame is all about. That's what incarnation is all about.
Okay. Am I off the track on this? Because I've talked about twin flames a lot. My understanding from twin flame was that it was a mirror to you, and the purpose was to cause both to bring the highest version of themselves together so that they could create something together that they couldn't do as large as they could do if they were on their own. And the reason that twin flames don't usually stay together, don't work, is because one or the other decides that they're not ready to come up and meet the other at that level, and they run. Am I on track, or is that off?
No, it's really, really good. But if your twin flame is your son, you're kind of screwed.
You're kind of screwed, right? So who was running? It was you, because he was saying, hey, here's the new mirror, level up right
You got
now.
it. That's exactly it. Yes, that's it. So what did I have to do but process my own shadow and my pain and level up?
So when you leveled up, what happens to the oversoul who was previously vibrating at the same harmonic that you were at, which isn't as high as you are now?
No, the oversoul vibrates at their own field. Your
So
body,
non-human, non-human.
not
Okay,
human. No,
okay,
no, no.
okay.
Mm-mm.
What?
When you experience that oneness,
Mm-hmm.
that is your oversoul family is the same kind of vibratory state. It's
So,
just it's just experiencing, it's just an expression from source that source is looking to learn from.
mm. So what happens with the people who are incarnated with you, who were at the harmonic that you were at as you start to rise? Do they fall away? Do they rise also? What happens?
It's just an energetic exchange. They either push away from it or they move towards it.
And it's not good, better, best, right?
No, it's physics.
It's physics. Okay. Well, explain also what the earth is. So we've talked about on this show many times Mother Gaia, the energy of Gaia, of earth as a sentient being. And you explained that as her vibration has been raising, she's been letting karma and energy that was so entangled drop off, and it's just mitigating that for us. So what's going on right now in what I'm gonna label it as the Great Awakening, because so many of us have felt this and talked about this. What is happening to her right now, and what is happening to the collective right now interacting with her?
Okay, so water, as I said, has multiple phases. One of its phases is at the center of the earth. There's three crystalline bodies of water that sit there at the center of the earth.
I just got goosebumps when you said that. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
because it's a kick-ass place. It's crystalline, it's information. And many of us incarnated where there was codes that were held in the water. So our vibrations, our memories were held in the water. So I remember myself as a being called Istifil in my Lemurian lifetime. And I was a records keeper, I was a librarian. So I could mimic any vibratory state that was in that space, and I would store it in the water. It wasn't like going to the library and getting a book. It was different because the water held the memory. So that still exists. We froze it in Antarctica from my memory. And it is now, as we see ourselves at every vibratory state, we are activating that crystalline grid, which, if you've ever watched the Hans Kenneth experiment, if you haven't, you've got to look it up because it's basically mediumship. It's a mirror. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I'm constantly demonstrating this space with my light body. I'll put my light body in this space that I see with my own eyes, and my video camera will record it and show you because my field is coherent. You can see a field vibrating with my energy body, so you can actually see the matrix with your own eyes. Just watch it on a video. It's real. I don't know how to do technology. I just point my video camera on it and it does it. It's a mirror to water. So the key to Earth raising her vibration and remembering who she is through the water. And it's the only way because it is the one thing that permeates and holds every vibratory state.
All right, I'm freaking out on multiple levels right now. I don't know what is going on. Maybe you can explain this. When you first started talking about the crystalline bodies, and I said I got goosebumps, when you started going deeper into the description of it, and if I'm experiencing this, I'm probably not the only one. Those of you out there watching are probably, if you're with us now, an hour and 20 minutes in, this may be happening to you. But I started getting waves of the goosebumps. I immediately got tears in my eyes that almost overflowed. And then I felt a vibration that was like over my whole body that was just like just a super low. I mean, just a not low, but I mean, it wasn't strong, just a light vibration, almost just a higher vibration. What happened?
Thank you for saying that, by the way. I love that you're speaking what you're feeling because I was hoping you would feel it.
I
That is
can, as soon as you said that, I got that feeling again.
that is me matching the
Come
hexagonal
on.
shape of the
You're
EM.
making me want to cry too while you're saying all this.
It's really simple. It's a joke of the universe. It's so simple. It's so simple. The EMF field is a hexagonal shape. It's water. It's there. You don't see it with your eyes, but you feel it, don't you? This is what I'm talking about with touch. Do we have to feel it with our hand? I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. I'd love people to respond. What do you think about touch? Because the fields that you see are there. Everything is in your space already. Your perspective, your attention is elsewhere all of the time, but you're focused only on this conversation. So the energy is here. But water is the one thing that holds all of that for you. All the different universes are literally right here. Okay. It's wild. I'm able to take pictures of it. It's very cool. It's undeniable.
What do you mean you're able to take pictures of it?
I mean, I can take pictures of things that I see with my own human eyes. My phone records it.
From your eyes to your phone.
Yeah.
Energetically. I'm not surprised because I've talked to enough people who have had near-death experiences that electricity, electronics operate very differently. Usually they can never wear a watch again. They have an effect on all kinds of technology. So you're saying it sounds supernatural, yet there's a big part of me that is not even surprised that you're saying this.
Yeah, yeah. No, it shows. I have some that show the actual grid lines that we work on. it will record and show you the grid lines. You can see what a spiral actually looks like. You can see the light swirling around in my room. You can see light in the field, so how it moves. I do it over a lake, so that's the Hans Kennis experiment. So you can see the actual mirror. Orbs, light beings, it all records. I can actually consciously take a picture of something as I look at it with my light body and move it to the side so you can see how dimensions are actually made, like a kaleidoscope. I can move into different layers of screens and go collect a photon and bring it back. Really freaking cool. I can light up a room. I did a demonstration for 20 scientists and showed them how photons can literally come out of the fascia tissue, and I moved it over to a very famous scientist that needed some healing. I can do some wild things. We're not just this physical body. We're not.
One of the things I started saying many, many years ago is that in the future, all healing will be energy, light, and frequency. Will you speak to that?
Yes. Well, that's basically what we are. That's what I want to say about that. I mean, when you match a vibration, you can re-see it for anybody. That's what we do every Sunday, is we match a vibratory field of consciousness and we allow it to cycle through its octaves as water, bringing back healing as a whole. And it really takes a village, because I might have a vibration in my body through my experiences, which are different than yours, that vibrates in a specific way that would heal your body. All we have to do is interact. So the more isolated we become, the less we interact with one another, the less we help one another, all we're doing is hurting ourselves. We have to reach out to one another.
I don't know if I'll keep this part in the recording that I'm going to ask you, or it's a comment and a question, but I have to say that when you first came on camera today and I saw you, my impression of you is that you were in your early 30s. My mouth just about dropped open when you said that you were nearly 50. And one of the things I had a conscious thought of when you said that is she's done something to heal herself to not age the way that others do. And I am a big, I've studied anti-aging for many, many years. I know a lot of things about what are happening with the telomeres and how the cells age and how the energy within our DNA has been changed so it's not optimal, and that it can be in the future reversed. And so I've been saying for a while, I don't feel like I'm going to age the way my parents have aged. Have you done something to yourself consciously to reverse your own aging?
All I've done is brought myself to coherence. And
So explain coherence
I don't need
again
it.
from the geometry, because you
Yeah.
said that in the very beginning, before we started recording, that this was one of the big things that you were working with.
It's everything. Yeah. It's how you heal. It's the remembrance of what you were before you were expressed into form. So the only way for you to heal really is to reverse, go in reverse, which is what you're talking about. The body will do it too. Um, I am moving my body to a point where my light body will be a higher aspect of me. So I don't know how much more form is needed. Um, I don't seem to need to eat very much. I don't need a lot of water. I rarely sleep more than 3 or 4 hours and I'm not tired. Um, the body changes in every way. Yeah.
Do you think that we will, in this lifetime, start to see the change of the collective? I know it only takes a certain percentage. I think it's around 25%, 20%. There are a lot of there's a lot of dependence on this, but if we have 8 billion people on the planet right now, and 2 billion people wake up and remember what they are, who they are, that
Mm-hmm.
they're all part of one, we
Mm-hmm.
can flip the entire whole. Do you think that that is something that is possible to happen within our lifetime, yours and mine?
I think that the EMF field has been manipulated to the point where there was so much distortion in that space where you couldn't see yourself, and it was also broken. Um, the higher beings, the higher aspects, couldn't reach us here, and we couldn't see beyond it, but that's been repaired. So what's going to start to happen is the DNA is going to shift by force, because the space that you're engaging with, this goes back to twin flames. Now your space is starting to vibrate higher because Earth is remembering, because the water. So I believe there will be a mutation of the mind. I do believe there will be extra senses that come online for each and every soul. And those are not new. These are owed to every single human being. You're supposed to be able to incarnate here and succeed. Okay?
That's so powerful. Say that again.
Yeah, you're supposed to incarnate and succeed. You're supposed to be able to touch it and decide what you want to be in joy and curiosity and naivety. You are not supposed to come here and learn about emotion. This is not an emotional school. This isn't a school for touch. Discovery. What is it? What am I? It was altered. That has been fixed. And now we're approaching AI, where you really, 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 really need to ask yourself, what am I?
Why do we need to ask ourselves that now in the light of AI? What about that has changed?
Your attention is being so heavily divided already on screens. Okay. In my opinion, just my opinion, that this place has become no different than a fractalized world. Your attention is being driven in so many different spots. How can you decide what you are? This is the way the autistic brain works. There are so many different realities you have to choose. Okay. Now, if you're going to choose to give your attention away to a screen, that's the way the world is going to be. If you choose to put your attention on the beautiful flower at your feet, or the ocean under your toes, or the child in front of you that is new here, then that's where your attention goes. It's choice. And so right now we are at a precipice of how this earth is going to see herself. Does she want to just be seen through the lens of separation more and divided more? Or are we going to embody our higher vibratory state and remind her that she's more than that? Apple trees produce apples, earths produce peoples. So we're telling her who she is.
Wow, this is so powerful. Will you explain the dimensions? Because you mentioned up to 20. What are the dimensions? Are there infinite numbers of them? Are there set numbers of them?
It's infinite. Every field has follicles. Okay, this is wild. I never tell people about this, but think about your body as a miniature projection of the universal structure. And you have hair, especially the eyes. Think about your eyes. You got these eyelashes, right? Well, the universe works the same way. They have these follicles that come off of these fields of vibration, these geometric fields of vibration, yeah? And when those follicles touch, so when I look at you, I'm energetically touching you, okay? No different than if you touch the hair on the arm and whatnot. And we see each other and we want to know what each other is. It's natural. So we talk, we exchange, we shake our hands. Everything we do as humans is done in the higher realms and in these energetic states. So when you talk about, is it infinite? Yeah, because it's part of nature to see itself in another, to ask the question, what am I? How else would you know without someone else reflecting something back? So these fields constantly interact and change. Now, there are structures to them. So, like, for example, there's 144 chords that make a human being whole, where the human being can actually see itself from its center. It's an example. The fields work pretty much the same way, different chords, different structures, different laws. But you've got three main characteristics of the universal structure. Okay, you've got different vibratory fields. You've got three right triangles that are imperative to the structure holding its patterns that it was created to experience from. And then you have repeating patterns once and again, bigger to the smaller. Now, when something sees itself to its totality, like I'm saying, like 144 chords, what happens is it's expressed as something new because it's completed its frequency and it becomes a new chord. Okay, new octave, basically. Sorry, not new note chord, new octave. So that's where Earth has been at this point in time. That's what we're going through is a new shift.
Cara, this is the deepest conversation I've ever had on this show. I've had conversations like this before, but this is the deepest we've ever gone on this show. I'm so grateful for this conversation. And for those of you who are watching, will you please help Cara with what she is trying to understand about touch? If you can take the time, put it in the comments for her about what touch is to you, because I think this will help her in what she's trying to do. And you can see this woman is seriously doing things on a collective level for all of humanity. It's really important. And I would imagine that there are a lot of people watching who are chomping at the bit to figure out how to connect with you, how to work with you. So, Cara, how do people connect with you besides your YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah. ResonanceReturns.com is my website. So I do speeches, I do events. Events are my favorite, if anybody wants to know. I do weekly meditations that are free to the public, and they are coherence sessions. So you do not need to have money to work with me. Just please attend, and I can give you those links. And then if you'd like to work with me further, I work all kinds of different aspects of people. People that have extrasensory perceptions that are highly advanced are really my biggest clientele. I help them understand what they are and how to work with it. Many of them say these are not gifts, and I love those kind. I also do sessions with my cohort Noah, where we create a balanced energetic state for somebody so they can feel their own divinity. I can basically mirror anybody's soul aspect so they can have a direct conversation with their higher self. It's a free for all. I don't know any limitations. So if you'd like to spend an hour with me, that's how you find me.
And then what's the name of your YouTube channel? What I'm going to do is I'm going to link this video to it. We'll have this
Okay.
as a collaborative.
It's the same thing, just resonance returns.
Okay. So, wow. I'm going to ask you one last question, which is, Cara, what do you know for sure?
What do I know for sure? That I am.
That's a mic drop answer. Well, Cara, I want to thank you so, so much for everything that you are doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Thank you.
And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these beautiful experiences with somebody who needs it. And if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.
I'm Lori Micah. If you like stories that open your heart and expand your soul, hit subscribe. This channel is Waking Up the Collective.